Welcome back to another episode of the Bonus Point, everybody. It was just a pretty big game week 9, real points. Today what we just gonna be doing is a quick recap of that, or probably not too quick because we had way too much goals to talk about. This one of the few game weeks we actually saw 2 hat-tricks, one from Mount and one from Salah, as everybody know. For all those who captain Salah, well done. I did not, so not really in the best mood right now. Another thing is, quick note to pay attention to some of the midweek games. Pay attention to the lineups. That might give some hints towards what the lineup could be expected for this weekend for the bigger clubs, for the clubs that like to rotate, like City, Chelsea, maybe even Liverpool. So pay attention to those teams, and then just pay attention to the midweek games for injuries. You know, that's just the regular thing. Players get injured playing games, so pay attention to that as well. There are midweek games, some of them going on right now. So yeah, just look out for those. We'll talk more about it on Thursday though. Aside from that, let's just get straight into the game week recap, as you all are accustomed to by now. So first of all, we're going into Arsenal versus Aston Villa. We had 3-1 win to Arsenal, and it was a pretty good way to start off the game week, I would say. Returns from Orba, had his penalty saved, but Martinez is just that goated. But then tapped in the rebound. I will by now say that I think Orba is catching some form. He's scored in a few game weeks back to back, so that's pretty nice, and he's been looking a lot better, a lot sharper. So that is the Orba that we like to see. In terms of being an FPL asset, we're just gonna have to wait to see, because you have a lot of other strikers to compete with right now. I think Smith Rowe versus Saka debate has kind of been put to rest at this point. I think Smith Rowe is definitely the better FPL option. For those who went with Saka, I definitely understand why you would have went for him, but as I've been saying on this channel, I think Smith Rowe is the better FPL option. He's cheaper, and quality chances seems to be falling to him a lot more than Saka. Saka might actually be a better player than him in real life. That is opinionated, but this is not a football channel, so I really can't talk about that too much. But in terms of FPL, definitely think Smith Rowe is the one to go for. So if you're definitely, if you still have that choice to make, or if you're still looking at Arsenal players, which I think you should, I think Smith Rowe will be the one over Saka for a multitude of reasons. And then finally, the Arsenal defense is still pretty good. I understand they took a goal, but it was kind of a mad goal to be honest. Yeah, I definitely have a lot of faith in Arsenal defense. The main reason there is because they stop a lot of chances coming their way. It's not easy for teams to make chances against Arsenal, and at the end of the day, that's kind of how you want the defense to perform. So yeah, in terms of Aston Villa, nothing much to really report here. This is not a team that I'll really be focusing on attacking wise or defensive wise. Just I wouldn't really want any Aston Villa players right now. They need to get some form first. Moving on to Chelsea versus Norwich. This was a huge game. A lot of us had actually captained a Chelsea player, whoever that may be. And for me, it was Havertz. I brought in Havertz for a -4 and captained him. It was seeming kind of logical, but now looking back on it, it's just a fat L. 7 goal score, Havertz no goals, no assists. Enough about that though. Chelsea, I think, were very fluid in the attack on the day. I understand it's Norwich, but yes, Chelsea were very fluid in the attack, and it was about time that I seen Chelsea just open the gates and go for the goals, you know. So I was happy that Chelsea was able to do that. I still think in terms of FPL, we should be pouring more money into the defense on Chelsea's end. I don't really expect Chelsea to be scoring 7 goals or 5 goals every single weekend. That's just kind of how it is. However, I think the defense is very solid, and there's a lot of value to get from those defenders. Whichever ones you want to pick is completely up to you. Chilwell seems to be nailed at the moment, so you can definitely go for Chilwell. Why not? Reece James, I personally big fan of Reece James. I think that's a good one to go for FPL. Aspi, pretty good as well. It's not every week that he's going to be rotated. I understand he was rotated against Norwich, but that is now a normal thing for him. He usually tends to play. Honestly, I think the money is in the defense. If you want to go for an attacker though, I think it has to be the guy that scored the hat-trick, right? It gotta be Mount. Chelsea are making a lot of chances in the wide areas. That's why we see their fullbacks get involved so much, and oftentimes their wingers per se are there for a lot of cutbacks, and also there to be played in behind as well. Yeah, I think Mount being as a wide player could be a pretty good asset for the rest of the season. Havertz, someone that I definitely won't go for at this point. Not just because of the fact that he didn't get any goals on the day, but it's just the way that he played. He's looking kind of out of it. He's looking a bit lazy, to be honest. He's not willing to get into the box. He just wants to drop really deep and link the play. And for a guy that's dropping deep to link the play, he's barely even getting touches. So this is not something that you want to see from players that we chose, okay? So yeah, happy with someone that I would stay away from. But Mount, and even if he didn't score a hat-trick, I would say that it's still looking good because he's getting on the end of a decent amount of chances. He's taking his set pieces. It's looking pretty good for Mount. Mount, one to watch. Moving on to Crystal Palace versus Newcastle. This game was kind of boring, kind of dead, to be honest. But we have one bright spark, which is that Callum Wilson scored again. So, yeah, maybe Callum Wilson is someone that we're sleeping on a little bit too much. He is tried and tested in this league. He knows how to score goals in this league. He's not the type of player to go ahead and win the Golden Boot, but he's the type of player to finish the season with 10 to 12 goals. So I think that's pretty good. He's shown that he's been consistent in this league. And for 6.5, maybe even FPL are underrating his abilities right now. So maybe Callum Wilson could be one to watch, or one to even just take a punt on from all now. Aside from that, there's not really much else to report in this game. Crystal Palace are not too exciting, especially without Zaha. The only bright spark from Crystal Palace, in my opinion, is their new striker, Hudson Edouard. But he didn't manage to score on the day, so that's just kind of how it goes for him. I think he's still finding his feet, and he's not someone that I would pay too much attention to at the moment, unless you're a fan of the player. Both defenses kind of shit. I won't go for either of these defenses. So that's about it to report from this game. I'm moving straight on to Everton versus Watford. Watford did something that we did not expect them to do, which is to go to Everton and actually score 5 goals against these men. So as was a weird game from Watford too, because they actually took off Sarr, who I would have said is basically their talismanic player. Took him off pretty early, I think in the 60th minute or something like that. Just barely gave him 60 minutes. And then boom, it was goal. I think they scored 3 goals after they took off Sarr, or maybe even 4. The guy that they brought on for Sarr, Dennis, very involved. I think he had a goal and 2 assists, something like that. So for those who are Dennis, that's great. From an Everton standpoint, it did not look too good, to be honest. They brought on Richarlison kind of later on, and he managed to score. That was great. I'm glad that Richarlison is back. But I've been saying it for a few weeks now. Everton are missing Calvert-Lewin in the attack, and I finally showed. I don't think I expected Everton to lose this game because it was at home and it's against Watford, which is a pretty bad defense. But they lost, and again, I think it's due to the absence of Calvert-Lewin. You could also maybe put your hat in there and say, okay, the core also didn't play. That's possible. I think that the midfield was not as solid as it usually is for Everton. But regardless of the fact, I think that they're really missing Calvert-Lewin in the attack. And when he comes back, maybe we can start looking at some Everton assets. But for now, I wouldn't even bother to look their way. And in terms of Watford, the only asset that I could tell you all to get is now maybe a rotation risk. Who knows? Because he got pulled off. And the guy that got put on for him got 2 assists and a goal. I'm talking about Sarr, in case you didn't guess that. It's the only one that I may have thought could be good for Watford, and now he's getting pulled off, and Watford are winning games without him. So who really knows what's going on? Definitely something to keep our eyes on, though. Moving on to Leeds versus Wolves. This game was better than it looked like on the scoreline. Scoreline was just 1-1, but I thought it was a kind of mildly exciting game. We had Jimenez assisting Hwang again. They are getting a pretty nice partnership, even though the assist was not much of an assist. But they are getting a pretty nice partnership, and I think they're going to continue for the rest of the season. That link up between Jimenez and Hwang. It's just the way that the two guys like to play. It suits each other, and it works to each other's strong points, should I say. I think this assist between Jimenez to Hwang is going to be something that we'll continue seeing. And what does that basically tell us? It should tell us that Hwang is the better FPL asset, because do you want the guy that's assisting or the guy that's scoring? I understand that Jimenez is on penalties, but Wolves are not even getting penalties. I don't think that they got any for the season. I may be wrong there, but I don't remember Wolves getting any penalties for the season, and they're 9 games deep. So what does that tell us? Maybe their wingers aren't tricky enough. Maybe they don't fall long in the box. Who knows what the problem is, but it's just the reality right now. Hwang is a lot cheaper than Jimenez, so maybe at the moment I might have to say Hwang over Jimenez for now. On Leeds' perspective, I think Leeds did okay. They are struggling to attack right now because they're missing a large chunk of their team, and I think at this point the advice may have to be to go without Leeds players. We don't know how Bamford is going to look after coming back from like a month on the sidelines, out through injury, of course. We don't even know when he's coming back. The other point is that Rafinha just got injured. it's not looking too good, to be honest, for these Leeds players. I personally have Rafinha. I may be looking to sell him. As good as he is, he's just not playing for a good enough team right now. I don't think there's anyone else to help him. Rafinha's main threat is his creativity. If he's creating chances for players that are bad finishers, it means he's not going to get that much assists anyway. He already had Bamford to deal with, who's not the best finisher, and now he has other players to put up with. Basically, he's playing with the B squad. So, yeah, not too keen on Rafinha right now. I really rate him as a player. I really rate him as an FPL asset because of his abilities. But the reality is that he's playing with a severely weakened Leeds side right now. I'm not sure if his quality is enough to take on 10 men by himself and just keep scoring goals every weekend. So, yeah, for now, and with the current injury news, he might be on the sell list. So let's just pay attention to that. Let's see what Bielsa says about him in press conferences later during the week. I will talk more about it on Thursday for sure. Moving into Southampton versus Burnley. Yo, Livramento is the real deal. Got his first Premier League goal. That's fantastic. It seems that Livramento is finding a way to get points every week. Whether it be that he score, keep a clean sheet, make an assist, draw a penalty. These are all things that he's done so far for the season, and it's like a different thing every week. So it's like, okay, if he scores this weekend, maybe next weekend he keeps a clean sheet, or he wins a penalty, or he does an assist, but he just keeps getting points, and we just keep leaving him on the bench. At some point, I would say that when Southampton is looking to have a pretty good game on paper, we could start Livramento because the boy is in form. He definitely won that right back spot. I don't even look at the Southampton sheet anymore to see if he's there. I just expect him to be there. That spot is his now. It's nailed on. And he's only, at the moment, I think 4.3. Most of us got him for 4.0 or 4.1. Fantastic FPL asset. It's just phenomenal. Reminds me a lot about Dallas from last season, except he's doing it from right back, whereas Dallas did it from the midfield. Really good FPL asset. Borderline essential because of his price. So keep your eyes on him if you don't have him and you have a free transfer to spare. Go ahead and get yourself a Livramento. In other news, we have Cornet scoring twice. Cornet, I'm not sure how much goals he has for the season, but it seems that every time he starts, he's doing something that I like. The last time he started, he got some goals and then he got taken off on injury. But the way that he plays is so different for a Burnley player. You don't expect Burnley players to play like this, play with so much flair and actually go and try to score. That kind of weird for Burnley, but it's actually working out for him. And maybe being the only different guy in the team, the only guy that actually willing to take on players and go score, maybe that's why he getting on the end of so much goals. So I think Cornet could be someone to look at, but let's let him get in a bit more form first. And let's see who his competition is as well in terms of the other midfielders. But definitely, he's one to watch. Brighton versus Manchester City. Nothing surprising here. City beat them 4-1. Maybe the only surprising thing is that Brighton actually scored on the day. Because we know that City is one of the best defense in the league. We have Cancelo, who continues to start. I think that for those who have him, that's a pretty good one to hold on to. And if you don't have him, you can go ahead and get him because it's not every weekend that City is going to be conceding an absolute monster goal. And they were away too, and still, I think, defended pretty well. We also have the fact that Brighton actually looked pretty good coming down towards the end of the game. They had already lost the game by then, but they continued attacking and they look pretty good and stringing some attacks together. I think Brighton are a good team. I'll definitely be looking at the defensive end more than the attacking end because their players just don't seem to be good finishers at all. I'll have no idea which attacker to tell you to go ahead and get. One bright thing is that Lamptey came on and looked so good. He terrorized the right-hand side of that field. If he starts starting, he's definitely one that I would look at because I think he's only 4.4 or 4.5 on the market right now. That's going to be a pretty good one to pick up because he's playing for a team that has a decent defense, or at least on paper has a decent defense. And his willingness to attack is just out of this world. And he's very capable when it comes to attacking as well. So if Tariq Lamptey gets a few starts back to back, definitely someone that I want us to get. So let's look out for that. Let's see what Lamptey does in the future. In terms of City though, there's really not much more new stuff that I could tell you all. I don't think that we learned too much from this weekend. We already knew that Phil Foden was an absolute monster. We already kind of agreed that Foden might be the better pick over Grealish. I think this weekend kind of just confirms that Grealish is not having bad games. It's just that Foden is the one that's willing to score goals, whereas Grealish is barely even shooting. So for the same price or around the same price, Foden should be the one over Grealish, especially if Foden keeps starting. Let's look out and see who starts midweek though, and then we can make a better decision. Brentford versus Vardy. Brentford versus Leicester. Vardy finally did not score. It's about time that the man got a blank, so that's good for me. I didn't have him, but bad for you all if you all took a -4 to bring him in this weekend. That'll just be too bad. Daka came on for Vardy and looks pretty good in my opinion, and got returns as well. So this one is definitely someone to continue looking out for. I'm not saying that he's going to go ahead and take Vardy's spot, but maybe he'll take Ian Nato's spot, and then we could be in business, right? Because I really think that Daka is a good one for FPL, especially at that price point and whatnot, and the way that he likes to play, he's going to get goals if he's on the field. So Daka, one to look out for. Let's see who starts the next game. Let's see what time maybe he comes off the bench, and then let's see what he does. Alright, so yeah, Daka is someone to pay attention to. I think Brentford looked pretty good on the day too. Brentford's defense is pretty good. I understand that Leicester scored 2 goals against them, but that Tielemans goal is out of this world. Okay, and Brentford hardly give up chances against them. So yeah, I think that defense is a pretty good one to keep looking out for. Ivan Toney scored on the day, then it got taken off. So that's just something to be sour about if you own Toney. But I think Toney is still a good option going forward. I think Mbeumo is still a good option going forward as well. Two of them seem to have a pretty good partnership, and I expect them to be linking up for goals in the future. West Ham versus Tottenham. Antonio finally scored again. Not sure how many people still have Antonio, but it's about time. After blanking for like 3 weeks in a row, man came and scored against Spurs. This Spurs defense is trash. I just want to say it right now. I find West Ham created a decent amount of chances against them. Spurs doesn't seem to be willing to defend or even have brains in the defense right now. Son and Kane, a little bit unlucky to not get something between them on the day. I think the link up between those two guys was pretty good. Son should have definitely had a goal. It was the type of chance that we expect him to bury, but he hit it straight at the keeper, and so it goes sometimes. Assisted by Kane, by the way, just want to put out there. Whether you have Kane or Son, I think you should just have at least one of them, especially from game week 12 move on, when Spurs fixtures get a lot better. I'll definitely be looking at the attackers over the defenders for this particular team. In terms of West Ham, if you have West Ham players, you might as well keep them. If you don't have them, I don't suggest going ahead and get them, because there are some difficult games coming up. And then finally, the game of the week, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Shit, there's not really much to report here, other than this was a brilliant game. Salah is the king. He is the most essential player that I've ever seen in FPL. If you don't have him, go and get him, and probably just look to captain him until he stops scoring. That's about as simple as it gets, and that's about as easy as it gets too. Salah was fantastic on the day. I think Liverpool have finally secured themselves as serious title contenders. A lot of us didn't expect them to win the title this season, or even challenge for the title after how last season went. But Mo Salah is in so much form that he's just single-handedly winning games for them. If Liverpool are going to be title contenders, or if we're going to agree that they are title contenders, then I think that having Salah alone is not good enough. We should be looking to double or even triple up on this Liverpool team. And my advice is, I think Salah and Mane are too expensive to have both of them. So the guys that we could look at are probably Jota, but he doesn't start every time. However, it seems when he comes off the bench, he does well. He started, got a goal against United. It looks pretty good for him. I would have liked to say Naby Keita, but he just got himself injured, so let's forget about that for now. That hands me over to the defense. I think, obviously Trent is my favorite, but there could be, the argument for, instead of going for Trent, dropping down to Robertson, save yourself 0.5, and then upgrading from maybe an Asby to Virgil, and you go Robertson, Virgil. Virgil has not scored for the season yet. That is not characteristic of him. I think goals are going to be coming pretty soon. Robertson's assist set is maybe just slightly below Trent's assist set. We've seen seasons before where Robertson assisted more times than Trent and got more points than Trent. So I'm just saying, let's not forget that Robertson exists, okay? He's also capable of scoring. We've seen him score goals before. I think the money could be, I mean, we have Salah for sure, right? I think the money could go to the defense now. Liverpool is not even a bad defense. They are pretty capable. We see them starting the same 3 defenders every time and then rotating one between Gomez, Matip, Konate. Konate started against United. Before that, it was, I believe, Matip started. So to go for one of those centre-backs, I think it's out of the question. But to go for 2 of the other 3 nailed-on ones, I could understand if you're going for that, basically. I think money should be in the defense right now. I just up to you all to choose which defensive players you want to go for. However, this does wrap up the video. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for listening. If you made it this far, it was a pretty long video. I didn't anticipate it to be this long, but that's how it goes sometimes. Once again, thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you all again on Tuesday. Bye.